Hello everyone, welcome back to Watch Your Game, episode 42. We have now been going for a total of 44 weeks, because I have taken a couple of weeks off, but I'm glad to be back, and this week we are back with 3 projects that we're going to be chatting to: Beramonium, Army of Fortune, and Lysto. This space is aimed at introducing projects to gamers. We focus very heavily on gameplay, but we are in Web3, so we will touch on NFTs and tokens where appropriate and if they are interesting. If it's just the standard stuff, we might just mention it and then get back into gameplay. It's a pretty free stage, so anyone who has any questions, request to speak, come up. Only request is that it's actually a question and not too much beard stroking. There's plenty of beard stroking spaces, and I quite like to keep this one about the games that we're actually talking to. If you don't want to come up, you can put comments in the bottom right-hand corner of the speech bubble, and if you have any beard stroking, happy for you to put them in the comments at the bottom as well. We might just not cover them. Remember to have a look at all of the projects as they're coming through. I will be pinning stuff up to the top to make it a bit easier to kind of get what people are saying. All the projects on the stage, you're free to pin anything to the top that you want. I will be doing my best to find the best bits on your timeline as we go through. I've also pinned to the top a Twitter list. This list will have every person who's come up on the show previously. We are up to about 85 at this moment. So it's a good place to follow if you are keen on keeping up to date with the projects that we've previously spoken to. And with a seamless segue, I will just have a quick rundown of some of the projects we've seen recently and what big news has been happening for them. So I've talked about this one a little bit. It is one of the games I've been kind of most involved with playing. It has been AI Arena. They've recently started closing out their Treasure Cup, and that was a very exciting tournament to be involved in. It's the third one I've been lucky enough to be involved in, and it was the hardest one by far. Last time I placed 20th, this time I placed 74th, and to win a prize you needed to be in the top 75, so I just scraped in. So that was a very exciting tournament to be going on. We've previously had our PokerStarter Gaming Guild. They have just launched their new quest system, and they just had a week of quests with a variety of games, some of which have been previous guests on our show, such as The Bornless. So a new way of encouraging people to try out new games. And then in terms of our final, pick one last one. We've been up to stuff recently. Okay, we'll go with, because I've seen them in the crowd, we had Wolves of Rome up. It must be quite a few months ago at this point now. Actually, time's kind of flown. They've got some big stuff coming up in the next 3 days, and I have pinned that to the top. So I've pinned a bit from all of the games we've talked to up to the top, as well as that Twitter list for you to see. But that is enough speaking from me, and we will head over to Army of Fortune, and if you can tell us who you are and what's your game.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thanks for having myself and here. My name's James Rowdy. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Army of Fortune Metaverse. What is Army of Fortune Metaverse? Well, it is essentially a metaverse of different mobile games. Now, when we say metaverse, everyone's got a different take on what a metaverse is. For us, it's a spatial interface, right? I mean, that's it in its truest form. Essentially, it's a place where, players can come and play our different types of game. In our metaverse, we have 2 games, first and foremost. Army of Fortune, which is our flagship genre-defining game. We have created a new style of genre. It's called RTDB, Real-Time Deck Building, and that's set to release in the later half of the year. In the meantime, we have just launched, or just announced our closed beta access for our first mobile game, which is Army of Tactics. So we ran a campaign releasing a bunch of beta testers to come and play that game. So we do have a big announcement on that tomorrow. But yeah, essentially that game is a auto chess and auto battler style game. So yeah, requires, obviously it's a bit of strategy involved, but essentially for us it is a testing point to invite more Web3 natives to come and play and test our game, and essentially co-build with us. The people behind this game are, some of the founding members in the early days of Supercell, responsible for games like Clash of Clans, Heyday, Clash Royale, and essentially these guys helped build and shape the past decade of mobile gaming, and are now looking to build out that next vision in mobile gaming, incorporating blockchain technology, introducing tokenized economies, leveraging obviously NFTs, and further technology as it develops in this space to really enhance the overall player's experience. Yeah, it's going really, really great with that. So yeah, I guess before I blabber on, Gaspode, yeah, that's essentially us. I'll check it back to you if you have any other questions.
I am sure I will come up with loads of questions, but I am glad that you started with explaining the various games and how that all ties in with the Army of Fortune metaverse, because initially I was getting slightly confused because I ended up following all of the accounts and then different things were popping up on my timeline, and I started getting a little bit confused between what was going on with the different games because I don't read names. So it's like, oh, these look similar, and then I was like, is one of these? Am I following a fake account? What's happening here? But you've tied this all together nicely. That you are bringing out kind of separate games. You did mention the beta keys, and I have been lucky enough to get one of those as well. So I'm very excited to get in and kind of see how that is going. I like the idea of how did you describe it? Real time deck builder, was it?
Yeah, that's right. Real-time deck building, so incorporating basically a bunch of different different genres of game to then go and create a new genre of gaming. I mean, we've been spoiled for choice over the years with different types of games, but to keep innovating and to keep pushing boundaries, we see that the evolution of gaming requires new genres to come out, and we want to be the leaders in that space.
And is it going to be mobile? Is it PC?
Yeah, our primary focus is purely mobile. I mean, I'm sure you're aware, and I guess for the audience listening, mobile is the future of gaming. We believe. I mean, the statistics are there. A mobile phone is an extension of us. We've all got it. Whether we are having a break at work, hanging out with friends, maybe you're on the toilet even. You've got your mobile phone pretty much in your hand most of the time. So allowing that gaming experience and allowing players to access that in the power of their hands, we just think that that's the future. It makes a lot of sense for us. You're not going to obviously take your console or your PC to work or to the bathroom. I mean, you might, depending on your circumstances, but yeah, it just makes a lot of sense for us. We believe that mobile gaming is the future.
I am also very keen on mobile gaming. Whilst I'm probably still PC master race at heart, becoming an adult and having a lot of adulting to get on with, it is that case of what you mentioned of I'm not taking my PC around everywhere with me, whereas I'm quite able to take my phone around with me. Just to dive into the first game a little bit more, In terms of kind of what I'd be looking at as a player when I first kind of load in, can you talk me through that a little bit, please?
With Army of Tactics.
Yeah, I think that's the first one you mentioned that's releasing first, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess sort of, yeah, we don't want to give too much away because we obviously, want to really have that experience for the beta testers that come on board. But essentially, I mean, we've leaked gameplay footage on our pages for Army of Tactics so far. So yeah, essentially, you could go in, you'd go and you'd log in, go and start building out a deck. So because there's an auto battle, auto chess game, you would then go and build your deck, select your players. It is a one v one, and then essentially sort of go through there, build your army, and start battling with other players.
And in terms of kind of building your deck, is it going to be that all players have a selection from the same pool, or is this where kind of NFT cards are going to be coming into it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the players will essentially be NFTs. So you will be able to go and have those players build out those NFTs and have that true digital ownership of that asset. And that's sort of how those NFTs will start integrating into the game. We do have some other announcements coming around, I guess, more so functionality, utility behind them as well. So yeah, we'll be announcing more of that as we sort of go through our beta testing campaign and doing more announcements then.
I'll zoom out a little bit further just so I don't keep getting you into almost trouble for what you can and can't say about what's going on. But in terms of the design of the game and mentioning it on mobile, one thing that kind of I always consider when I'm getting ready to choose which game I'm going to be playing on my phone is kind of length of gameplay. How's that kind of factored into the design, and what kind of expectations do you have with people sitting down? Is it going to be jump in one game, couple of minutes, or is it seen as slightly longer sessions?
Yeah, that's essentially it. So it's like a couple of minutes per game. Go in, you would have your battles. First to win 3 trophies, and then then you progress into your next battle, your next round, essentially.
And are you aiming to go into all of the app stores, or are you starting on one device? What's the kind of plan around accessibility in that way?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, we are starting on iOS, really focusing on iOS. And look, we understand that Apple has its challenges, especially in terms of the Web3 adoption. The 30% tax is obviously the elephant in the room. So we're very wary of that because, our team has a great relationship with them. That's the route that we wanted to go down. And I guess it's just, a lot safer. We've like I said, we've got a great relationship with them already. So, and a few other things. And then building with them just makes a lot of sense from our perspective. So, yeah, we're starting on iOS first and foremost, especially in the closed beta rounds. So, yeah, that's sort of where we're going to be starting our journey.
You're another game forcing me to get a second phone. People keep mentioning it. My brother just bought a second phone because Twitter Spaces kept rugging him on his Android. So now he flips between Android and iPhone depending on which one Twitter's actually hating at the time. I did want to circle back to one thing that you mentioned there regarding the Apple tax on games. Personally, I'm quite glad you're doing it. I want people who can do it and kind of, I guess, can afford to do it to go there and pay the tax, because I know there's smaller projects that they just can't handle that kind of thing. But I want enough games that can to go out and show Web3 games off. And I think being able to get into the Apple Store where there's already a huge pool of gamers and kind of show your game to where they naturally are really helps with kind of breaking out of the crypto bubble. In terms of kind of breaking through the crypto bubble and releasing on the App Store, how Web3 is it going to be in terms of trying to make it accessible for people who maybe haven't come via crypto Twitter and they've just kind of found you on the App Store instead?
Yeah, great question. We believe that with this, Web 2 versus Web 3, and especially, using gaming as the essentially best onboarding tool for, Web 2 users into Web 3, we want to eliminate as much friction as possible, right? So doing that through, these games is going to be a real good testing point, but more so a testament to not just us, but hopefully, Web3 as a whole on, how we do this correctly, and then through mobile, that journey. So for us, it gives users the two options. Like, you could come and play the game, and it's just like a normal game. I mean, games have had tokenized economies for ages, but you just haven't had true digital ownership, right? So for us, it's allowing users to come and play that game and have fun, regardless whether you're from Web 2 or Web 3 background. But more so in our closed beta rounds is more so inviting those critical gamers and especially, Web 3 natives to come and play that game and really be provide us that valuable feedback, non-biased, critical feedback that we need in order to go and keep building these games. For us, it's finding those friction points. What are we good at? What aren't we good at? Where are these friction points that we need to work on? And that's essentially why we're doing, 1,000 closed beta testers at the start, inviting players to come into our ecosystem, and essentially, calling them code builders, sorry, allowing them the opportunity to come and build with us. Everyone gets rewarded for being early to an ecosystem, but for us, the vision is the next 10 years of gaming. We've already done that with Supercell. Now it's going to build out those next 10 years. So inviting those Web3 natives to come and play that crucial part in not just our ecosystem, but helping shape that future, I think is huge. And then also allowing us to work through those friction points with those Web 2 gamers. But I mean, gaming, it's what's the word I'm looking for? I've had a mind blank. I mean, gaming has no boundaries, right? It doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are. The beautiful thing about gaming is it gives you the opportunity to be whoever you want. And I think that's really powerful, right? Allowing humans the opportunity to come in and if they want to be, the best in the AOFverse Metaverse, then they can. If they just, and, they want to build a huge profile and, be a part of our journey, then absolutely, we want you in here. And if you just want to come and have fun, like, we still want you a part of that. And I think that's really, really important.
I like how you specified humans. I don't know many cats or dogs running around with phones, so it's good to know you're targeting the people who'll be able to play it. I also like the fact that you've gone with 1,000 humans for testing. Like, it's a really good number to be able to get a lot of viewpoints. Sometimes it's quite difficult, and I know we've seen projects take different methods around testing. Do you get that spread? Some people open testing to everyone, and then sometimes you get good feedback. Sometimes that you get "Where's my winnings?" feedback kind of thing. Sometimes it's a bit more application process, but then with an application, maybe you unconsciously pick the people who are going to give you the best feedback because of what they wrote. So I think having a good pool is a good way of avoiding just listening to the kind of loudest voices and being able to actually have some real data around how people are actually experiencing the game. So I'm very excited to see how it goes with the 1,000 people. I know when I was applying for it, it filled up pretty quickly. So I think there's a lot of interest kind of coming in for it for that. In terms of building with a community, I'm a bit jaded, I guess. I like it, love the sound of it. I do think that a lot of people aren't the right person to be building a game. So when it comes to the feedback, how much is it going to be feedback kind of more curated and kind of listening to what people say and making more decisions rather than just a bit of a free for all around how feedback comes in?
Yeah, so I guess for us, it's listening to all 1,000 of those voices, right? They're all going to be unique opinions, and that's great. So I think we're trying to get as much feedback as possible. And that's why, we said at the start, inviting Web3 natives who are super critical. If you've been in the space for a while, you understand, things to look out for. I guess, red flags. I mean, we've seen a lot happen in this Web3 space, and every day there's something else happening. So it's important to, listen to everyone, and give everyone that platform to have a voice, and then, take that feedback, and then, go and take it on board and apply that to our games, and really listen to our community. Web3 is all about two things, right? Community and collaboration. We want to be a key testament to that, and listening to our community, taking that information on board, and really help giving the community the chance, or the opportunity, essentially, to build with us and shape that gaming future. Again, not just for us, but for the future of Web3 mobile gaming. That's sort of where we're heading to it. And for us, we need to hear from everyone, right? So yeah, that's sort of what we're trying to do here is give everyone that voice and take it on board.
I think that's a good way, and I would still strongly suggest curation because people can be idiots. Like when they were naming a boat over here in the UK, and the vote ended up being Boaty McBoatface, and they were like, "Yeah, we're not doing that." There's definitely plenty here just for the lols. But then, if you're a game trying to build seriously, being able to separate that from the decent feedback, and I think you will get decent feedback, definitely critical feedback, like you mentioned. The people who've kind of stayed around have a taste for what they want to see, and they will quickly know if you're not showing kind of what they're interested in. Just before, I'll see if anyone's got any questions for Army of Fortune. If you want to request to come up with any questions, or I'll just have a quick look in the comments. But while I'm doing that, where's the best place to follow Army of Fortune to stay up to date with what you guys are up to?
Yeah, absolutely. You can follow this account, and then we also have some other accounts. So we have Army of Fortune, which is this account. Then we have our other account, Army of Tactics. We've got a couple of famous characters that you can follow too. The other ones that we're following on our Twitter page, and essentially they play key roles in our gaming, right? In our ecosystem, our metaverse. We've had really great success with them on TikTok, so you can go and follow them on TikTok too. We've managed to amass an audience of 2.9 million followers across TikTok on 2 accounts, and we've had over 500 million views across those accounts. One of our videos has gone. We go completely viral on a lot of our videos, but probably our most common one has had over 100 million views. So it's been a quite unique and different approach, and me being speaking from a marketing perspective, our whole go-to-market strategy was completely different. We wanted to try new things, innovate more, and really, I guess, develop culture, which we think is important. So leveraging meme culture is a huge part of gaming, but also internet culture. And then, applying that and just ties into having fun, right? Especially when you're building games. So yeah, you can go and follow at Frog Pikeman on TikTok. And at Blick the Gobbler on TikTok as well, and like I just said, us on Twitter. That's sort of like our main sort of points. Also join our Discord as well.
Yeah, that's very exciting, and I have been seeing them pop up on my TikTok as well. I have been following, and those are some very impressive numbers. So definitely seeing people being interested in the characters. And then just for my final question, kind of stepping away a little bit from the game itself, what are you excited for in the next 3 to 6 months within the Web3 gaming space?
Innovation. I think we're going down a really good path in terms of gaming and innovation. Seeing what some gaming companies are doing, I think is really cool. And I'm still really optimistic on everything. I still see that a lot of people are innovating ERC standards. I think that's really important for the Ethereum ecosystem, but it's also important for other ecosystems too, because people see, okay, these new standards are being introduced, and then going and apply similar standards, if not better ones, into their own ecosystem. I think that's great. I definitely want to see more interoperability long term. I think that's going to be the future of gaming. In the macro, is allowing players to own their digital assets across multiple chains, multiple ecosystems. That's sort of like bigger play for me. But yeah, 3 to 6 months, I just want to see more innovation, more collaboration, and I really think that gaming is the biggest onboarding tool we have in terms of mass adoption into Web3. So yeah, I'm excited for that, and yeah, obviously excited for what we're doing, and yeah, Web3 gaming as a whole. So yeah, let's fucking go.
There's some good points there. You definitely hit a couple of my beard stroking points, but I'm going to keep my hand away from my beard. I don't have a beard, and I will not be stroking it. But I think you did make some good points there, and I'm also excited for a lot of that as well. You are welcome to stay and let my dulcet tones rock you to sleep. But alternatively, happy if you need to run off and go to sleep with it being really early in the morning there. But thank you for coming on.
Beautiful. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
That's good. So for everyone who's joined us, thanks again for coming. We're episode 42 of Watch Your Game. We've just heard from Army of Fortune. We've got 2 more projects still to come up. If you have any questions, it's a pretty free stage, so put your hand up, you can come up. Alternatively, in the bottom right, you'll find the speech bubble. Pop any of your questions down there. I'll be pinning stuff to the top. For more about the games, make sure to follow them. And that's Twitter, so do other Twittery stuff. But now we'll go over to Lysto as the second worst time zone. Who's behind the count? And I don't want to say what's your game because it doesn't quite fit, but I'll say what's your thing. I'll go with that instead.
That's true. So we aren't a game; we are a platform. I am Adib. I basically head content and I'm part of the strategy team at Lysto. We are a gaming identity slash reputation platform, I would say. And we basically intend, to put it simply, we want to be like the LinkedIn for gamers itself, right? We want to capture all of a gamer's experiences and achievements in a single place. uh, Now, why is that, and why would anybody want this, or any gamer want this? We feel like certain aspects of gaming, like give people or gamers a certain type of skill, which actually correlates to the real world as well, right? For example, anybody playing strategy games does build up that strategic thinking and problem solving mentality, and especially gamers having started from a young age, we feel that this should also translate into the real world. But that's like a broader way of thinking of how gaming identity and reputation would play out in the real world. But apart from that, like, to look at it from the Web3 lens, and this is the ecosystem which we started off with. The whole idea itself has come about just from the point of view of guilds and scholars, right? And us trying to create a profile for scholars that basically makes these people hiring them for guilds easier, right? That's the root of it. But we're way beyond that. We feel like for in terms of Web3, the way this profile could be used is basically actually targeting real gamers, right? And we feel that there are very few of those, while most of the gamers in Web3 are driven by financial incentive. I would say possibly all of them, but the players who actually play the game would be few, right? And those are the ones who you would want to target over just people who are holding and trading your NFTs. So that would be like the Web3 aspect of it. But if I was to talk about from like just the regular Web2 gaming, right? With the amount of funding pumped in the past 2-3 years, we feel that it's important for gaming companies to hire positions that also there are also gamers, right? People who are also gamers in these positions would actually benefit these companies more. So we feel like that, like, you having played a certain amount of games as applying for a graphic designer role or a community manager role actually plays out significantly in the way you perform your tasks and your job responsibilities, right? So that's what we are coming at it as LinkedIn for gamers, a gamer's reputation, a flex tool where you can show all the games that you've played so far. Yeah, that's the vision, and that's what we would want to be. Yeah.
Well, you've linked me in quite casually to. It definitely sounds like proofoflex.eth. In case anyone's interested in that, that's one of mine. But I think the reason I bought that was for a lot of the reasons you've just covered there, with why the idea of a LinkedIn for games makes sense. The word scholars got a bit tarnished, unfairly, I feel. But I do think there will be continued need for people who are not professional gamers in the sense of esport professional, but in the sense of they take what they're doing with games seriously. They take it professionally. So, like you're saying, that when guilds or games maybe want to see what skills people have picked up from previous games, having that somewhere that they can see that kind of helps them pick real gamers, like you mentioned. I think that's a really interesting point, and I think it will be. I think right now maybe it's not as much of a problem for projects or guilds because, frankly, there just isn't that many people knocking about. But as the space gets bigger again, having people have a profile that shows what they've done previously, I think that sounds like a really valuable thing to projects and also valuable thing to the players themselves as an easy way to kind of showcase what they've been up to.
Uh,
We good? Sorry?
just to add to your point of it, like the esports players do kind of again require a profile, just because like I've spoken to plenty of esports player and I've been one myself, right? So any point of time somebody asks me for my achievements or what have you played or participated in, I or any esports player would have to send you like 10 links or a made up resume of sorts, right? So we intend to bridge that gap as well. And again, like we want to issue trophies, badges, or you could just call them certificates as well, right? And this is again like we want to use Web3 tech wherever we deem it to be the most effective in for the Web2 players as well, right? So all of the badges, trophies, and certificates are actually NFTs. Yeah.
I think that's a good way of cutting down. You know what you're saying about having to send out a million links, and it is verifiable. There'll be with it being the NFTs and on chain. The people will be able to check to see whether this person actually got them, or whether have you just bought a profile to say that you're really good, kind of thing. We do have a question pop into the bubble. I'm hoping he didn't want it for the last one because I've only just seen it. But what's the single most powerful, unique selling point of your project? And that is from Sam.
I would say it's gotta be the flex aspect, right? Just that you'd be able to show off all your gaming achievements in one profile. I think that's what we are going for. Because we realize that, or more like, our hypothesis is the flex would be what would target even the normies and the normal gamers, right? That would be brought on by these esports players if we are able to get to that point. So again, like our major target audience that we are looking at is these esports players, and even like so that they onboard the other bit of their followers and gamers itself. Yeah.
Just to dig a little bit deeper on that, because I think that's quite an interesting point. It's obviously kind of aiming more towards crypto natives to start with, just because of some of the bits you've mentioned. But how do you see the transition from crypto natives into like everyone, regardless of kind of their crypto leanings?
So what we're doing is actually we've been like, to give you some background, we've built with the community so far, right? And initially it was all Web3 users whose feedback we were actually building on. But eventually we realized that the pool of gamers is not the right set of gamers to build out our vision, right? So we started interviewing and we started talking to a lot of Web2 gamers itself. And we came up with features that are targeted towards them, right? And we started hosting tournaments of these mobile games like Free Fire and PUBG in several communities, and started issuing badges for them. Like, of course, at this point of time, we are partly sponsoring their prize pool for our integration, etc. But we believe, like, if the players get enough accustomed to actually holding trophies and, like, sharing them and stuff like that, then we could drive about a more natural adoption in these Web2 gamers. And we don't tell them that it's NFT or anything as such, right? We just say you get a digital certificate, which can't be replicated. We've had, I think, a couple of sessions with these communities, and these communities are huge, right? 100K people, 120K people, and we got about, I think, there was a limit on Discord, so we got about 50 people, but there were like about 190 people in the chat, right? And all the entire, like, they understood the concept and they really actually vibed with the whole digital certification thing. So I believe, like, explaining it just a Web2 way and not like complicating it with Web3 is what's getting us some.
No, I think that sounds interesting, and I like that you're kind of targeting games that've already got a big community, because that saves having to do kind of the full community side, like finding a game that's building a community that it's already kind of there. So that kind of means that you've got more of a pool to fish in, essentially.
We think that these gamers are the ones that would actually like transition to Web3 games when Web3 games are actually ready, right? Because at the end of the day, we believe that every Web3 gamer, the real Web3 gamers, are also Web2 gamers first, right? So we think that once Web3 games are ready, then we would also be like a discoverability platform for these guys, and then that would drive a Web3 adoption by these Web2 gamers as well.
And in terms of the games that you've kind of given these certificates for, do they have to agree to it, or can you just pick any game and the way it works is you're able to kind of integrate it in?
Yeah, there's no sort of we've issued trophies for pretty much any and every game that the community wants to actually host, right? And it's not that we issue the badge. We've set it up as such that anyone who wants to host a tournament can host it and actually issue the trophies and badges by themselves, right? So yeah.
I think that's really good actually, because that saves on a bit of a burden, kind of from your side of always having to do that. I think my only risk worry maybe would be kind of how do you verify that someone isn't milking tokens? Would there be like verified tournaments and then community tournaments kind of thing?
Yeah, that's the kind of thing because any community that is looking to issue tournaments, right, we do verify them at that point itself. So we do have a community discovery page on our platform as well. And what we've tried to do, right, is actually issue badges for these Web2 communities. So they don't understand that these are NFTs and whatnot, right? We just say that you guys have 20 moderators and 10 admins, and these guys usually have staffs of up to 50 players, right? And we say, categorize them and we'll issue badges for you, which these guys can hold until they want to do whatever you want with it. So there will be that sort of experience documented on their profile as well, right? So that they can use that experience to maybe further go on and show off that, see, I was a community manager in this particular guild or community, right? So and we've actually managed to issue about 100 badges so far, and people who have actually come and claimed them, they don't even know it's NFTs. But further, what we want to do is we want to actually token gate their discords itself and help them set it up, right? But we've found some resistance there. But yeah, that's the objective, right? To actually get these people to start claiming NFTs and innately find out, okay, this is an NFT and this is what I've been using.
No, I think that sounds good, and definitely the use of language for things that they're already interested in is a good way to kind of smooth over any friction that might have been there. You mentioned kind of initial idea came about via scholars and such. How are you finding take up in terms of popular countries and kind of locations of your users?
We are based out of India, right? So initially, as well, all our scholars and predominantly were from Southeast Asia region only. And if your question is what, sorry, I didn't get your question.
So in terms of the success you've already had with getting people interested, I'm just more interested in if you're seeing a pattern of everyone coming from similar regions, or whether you are already seeing people from across the globe.
No. We aren't seeing people across the globe. We've majorly reached out to and partnered with Indian communities, and we are based out of India, so it's like we understand the geographic language, all this sort of stuff, right? So we've decided to start off from India, and yeah.
No, yeah, totally makes sense. So just, I think it'll be interesting to see how it translates as it gets more global, because especially depending on which games you target, you'll probably end up having everyone for that game is from one place, kind of thing. I think a lot of it with that. Do you see kind of when you're thinking of where you're looking, is there a toss up between kind of what device you're going for, whether it's mobile or PC, or are you just going for which communities look like they might be interested in being involved?
We're looking at both, right? PC and mobile. because there's a decent chunk of Web 2 gamers, competitive players, I would say, in on PC as well. Right now, we are actually still in development of our mobile app, but I think our focus would be more mobile than PC, TBH. Just to add on, the types of profiles we want to create, the way we're thinking of it is that every persona of a gamer itself should have a different profile and should display it differently, right? So what we've come about is some sort of a linked tree kind of interface, right, where you could basically customize blocks any way you want in your profile itself. So that way you make your profile look how you want it to look, right? So we're going with that approach, but we feel like, like we've come across a lot of like, say, graphic designers who want to design stuff for content creators and in gaming in specific, right? And they have these Instagram profiles and they have like Behance and stuff like that. Again, we want to replace those profiles with Lysto, while these community managers who who have screenshots of their Discord saying that they were a community manager here, etc., right? Again, we want to be replacing that bit as a Listo profile, right? So every persona has like very different kind of needs, and we've been thinking in terms of the LinkedIn model. I mean, linked.
No, I think that definitely sounds interesting, and the way it's kind of splitting out into, I guess, support roles for games. So it's not directly the gaming, but it's the kind of support roles around what people might be interested as well as in the gaming. No, I think that all sounds really interesting. I'll just double check to see if we've got any questions in the bottom. But I will go with my normal kind of ending questions of where's the best place to keep up to date with Listo?
That would actually be the Listo Twitter, the one which I'm speaking on, as well as our Instagram, which we started recently. Again, like most of these Web 2 peeps are all active on Instagram, and so we had to start on Instagram, even though we have a smaller content team than we would like.
And then the final question, I've just had a look, hasn't any more that's kind of cropped up for you. Final question, what are you excited for in the next 3 to 6 months in the space?
I think what I'm personally most excited for is the way we are headed towards actually adoption of these issuance of these certificates and this thing, right? So we believe that in the next 6 months, if we continue down the road of the way we are doing stuff, we believe that players themselves would be asking these communities that are hosting tournaments to issue badges for them, right? And at that point, we want to be approaching tournament platforms itself to say that you guys are hosting tournaments, so you guys can continue doing that. We are not your competitors, while we just want to issue XYZ badges on your platform. And that we think that should come from the players themselves rather than us trying to force it on them.
I think that's a great mentality to go in with it, and I think it'll be interesting to kind of see how it develops. I've just checked, nothing additional that's come in there, but it's been really great having you up and hearing more about the profile. Everyone in the audience, make sure to follow, keep an eye on it. Definitely, if you're interested in getting involved, make sure to reach out. But thanks for coming on.
Awesome. Thanks for having us, Gaspode.
Okay, so next, I'll just refresh. So, welcome everyone who's turned up for What's Your Game, episode 42. We've now heard from Army of Fortune and Lysto, and I don't know why I always stumble on your name. Beramonium has been patiently waiting, so we will go across to them now with who are we talking to and what's your game?
Hi everyone, and yeah, it's Beramonium. It's just Beramonium. I am Rafaelos. I'm the founder of Beramonium, And we're building a single-player RPG where you control a party of 4 bears, and you go into procedurally generated dungeons. It's infinitely repeatable dungeons as they level up every time you defeat the final boss. And every time you defeat the final boss, the whole dungeon levels up, and it means it's more difficult to beat. We are implementing NFTs in our loot layer, so you can, but you don't have to, mint your loot as NFTs and then trade it on the in-game auction house with other players, which is the crypto-enabled, let's say, layer of the game. So what we're actually trying to do with Beramonium is to build a fun game that in itself is fun enough to play, that you don't need the financial incentive to participate in it. But if you want to have this Web3 experience of actually trading stuff and maybe even earning money for your playtime, then you can do it via trading these items. Yeah, that's a high-level overview of what we're trying to achieve.
No, I will dive into the game a little bit. My first question is, I haven't talked to many. I think I maybe only talked to one other single player game. Why single player, and how do you kind of see that? What? Yeah, I'm going to rephrase my question. Why single player, and why don't we see as many single players in Web3? Do you think?
Okay, so we wanted to go single player because in our mind it's easier to build a good single player gameplay experience with a smaller budget, as we're still an indie studio, right? Than to go and create a basically it's always almost an MMO, right? We're of course thinking about incorporating for example PvP elements like 1v1 arenas into the game at some point, but we wanted to create this whole playable and fun single player experience so that if you buy our game you actually get the gameplay, right? You get what you paid for. It's like buying an indie game on Steam. That was the initial idea. And the second part of the question, I think we don't see as many single player games because it's not very intuitive to build a Web3 single player game. Because like the way we were building it, right, with the auction house and NFT layer, that's optional. If you cut it out, the game could probably be just a Steam game, right? So it's not very intuitive use of crypto. But what we want to do is actually drive crypto adoption as well, which is why we're starting with this single player experience that can be targeted towards all kind of gamers, and that it can be fun for people who are not as familiar with crypto.
Ooh, hello. Yeah, sorry. Twitter had got stuck on mobile pages. I was trying to find something to pin on the profile, and it got me all stuck. No, I think that sounds interesting. And then, now that we've kind of covered off that bit, I do want to see more single player games just to kind of see how they fare in the environment. And I like the idea that people can just play it without the Web3 bit, and it's a kind of a good way of getting people interested. I'll tag that one. That's a nice little picture. So, talk me a bit further through kind of my experience as a player when I first joined the game. And also, is it going to be PC or mobile?
So initially we started with actually browser-based game, which I think will have to evolve into mobile game eventually. However, as we've heard from your interview with AOF, Army of Fortune, the Apple tax is quite painful, and their policy is extremely unfriendly towards games that incorporate NFTs. So that's why we initially went for the browser, because, to be honest, it's just easiest to roll it out when you want to connect with MetaMask anyway, right? Because we all use MetaMask to connect to various sites, so it's natural that in browser you can very easily do this connection. So if our game requires you to connect wallet at any point, it's really easy to do when you're in browser. And sorry, what was the other part of your question?
No, that I asked too many questions one after the other. No, so in terms of just what's the player experience? So as a new player, when I log in, kind of what do I see, and how does that start going?
Right. So currently we're at the very early MVP stage, I would say. So this is something that our Genesis NFT holders can experience. It currently requires you to own a bear. In the future, it will be you will be able to just obtain the game as you would obtain the game key on Steam, but of course in a Web3 way. But right now, in our MVP, you can log in with your MetaMask. You can choose your bears, the Genesis NFT bears, which you want to use for your party. Since, as I mentioned, we're playing with a party of 4 bears. And they have different equipment. So that's how our NFT collection is structured. It's as if you had equipment in RPG game, right? So we have traits like weapon, chest, helmet, boots, gauntlets, and pants, and they're actually going to be in-game items. Right now, they're just visually represented, but as we keep developing, they will get their own stats, and so the better the NFT, the more powerful your in-game character will be. So yeah, right now you log in, you select the party of 4 bears you want to play with, and in turn-based combat you can defeat 3 bosses. And this will keep evolving into a fully generative dungeon. So we will keep adding more bosses and more zones. Eventually, you will be able to walk through the zones as if you were traveling through dungeon. And yeah, you'll be able to collect loot, and then you'll be able to level up the dungeons and try defeating the more difficult bosses and collect better quality loot. That's where we're at right now.
Okay, and how do you see, kind of, with it being a single player game, one of the problems always kind of like replayability and kind of length of play. How do you see that going, and how do you see your ability to kind of extend it depending on what people are interested in?
Well, we were thinking about releasing it in chapters. So, like chapter 1, and then you get the story behind the Beramonium universe, and of course, you get more dungeons. Sorry, you get the initial set of dungeons, and then the content that we could keep expanding on would be the world, and more dungeons and more bosses, more challenges. Essentially, like, I don't know, far-fetched, but like expansions for World of Warcraft, where you just get more content, right? So that was the initial idea, but of course replayability is going to be a problem in single-player games. So we're thinking that the Web3 aspect of it could help. So it makes probably the grinding of the gear more rewarding, but we'll see. We'll see how it's actually received by the players, right? And like I mentioned, we're actually thinking about doing the multiplayer elements. So the reason behind this, the reason why we're even talking about multiplayer and why I'm mentioning it, apart from replayability, we've actually reached one very big challenge. So normally, what we've seen in crypto games, let's call them Web3 games, usually they were fully blockchain idle gameplay. So you can't cheat because actions are confirmed as transactions on the blockchain. But as we kept developing a game where it's impossible to synchronize everything with blockchain, because we can synchronize, for example, combat with blockchain, we realized that people are gonna cheat. So if we allow people to get loot in single player game that's actually of any value, they will definitely cheat. Initially, we thought actually that's very good for a single player game. There is no incentive to cheat because it's a single player game, right? But then we realized that, oh wait, it's actually, paradoxically, we will give them a reason to cheat in a single player game if we want to add this Web3 economy. So how you solve problem with cheating in games is actually you have to build server authoritative gameplay. What it means is that the game is played on the server. So you have one instance of the game on the server and one instance of the game on the client. And whenever user inputs are read, they're actually played on the server. So the server always holds, they're sent to the server and played on the server. So the server holds the authoritative version of what happened. So even if you change something on the client, change some parts of the code, it will not be reflected on the server, which holds the authoritative version of it. But then, if you do that for a single player game, if you add this server authoritative infrastructure, it means that you're basically running a multiplayer game at this point. Well, you're not running multiplayer game in terms of player interactions, but you have to have servers that players connect to, and you have to synchronize every single action they take with the server. So at this point, you have the infrastructure to actually host multiplayer game. So this is why we're actually thinking about building out multiplayer aspects in the future, because we kind of have to have the infrastructure to support it anyway. And well, it would be a waste if we have the infrastructure and we don't do 1v1 arenas, for example, or do like a player hub city where people can just meet and chat and show off their gear, right? So this is like a weird aspect and weird twist that we've realized in the development.
No, I think there's some interesting stuff coming in, and I'm definitely excited to see kind of how that all plays out. I like the idea of a single player and being able to run through it. I play quite a lot of single player. Like I've just reloaded Fallout because I like a good run around in the Fallout world. In terms of from a selfish point of view, when I play games, I like to make content about it. With it being single player, how do you see content creation coming into it, and is it kind of planned into your kind of marketing and adoption strategy?
To rephrase your question and make sure I understand it correctly, do you mean how we're going to help content creators create content around the game, or?
Sometimes with a single player, it can be difficult to create content, or if it's something that you're kind of spoiling for someone else, that can cause difficulties. How do you see that kind of playing out for the game, and has it been something that you've considered?
Well, to be frank, you surprised me with this because I didn't think about this particular aspect of it. But when I think of it, it's actually, I think the replayable infinite dungeons that are procedural, it means that you're always sort of playing a bit of a different game. So I think it would still be interesting to create content around, for example, defeating very high level difficulty bosses. Oh, because I failed to mention but I don't know how I failed to mention that. But actually, there's going to be a permadeath in the game, but it's only regarding to items. So whenever your party dies, you will lose a percentage of all your equipment, and you will lose percentage of all the inventory equipment, so all the loot that you've received. So we wanted to feel like kind of a roguelike game. We wanted to be very challenging. And I think challenging game content makes for good creators content, right? I don't know if I'm right about it, but it seems to me to be the case.
No, I think that definitely plays into it, and it's interesting that you mention that kind of permadeath effect on equipment, because the only other single-player game I can think of that I've talked to in Web3, they're also having it's kind of completely different in terms of the game, but they're looking at that kind of permadeath equipment penalty for dying as kind of a risk in terms of the single player. So that's interesting to be doing the same thing. In terms of kind of infinite dungeons, beating bosses, that definitely sounds like something that can always have something created about it. And then do you see people kind of starting to specialize in sharing their strategy, showing guides of how they're doing, what they're doing with their bears, their kind of bits? Do you think there's enough there'll be enough depth that people will end up kind of trying to min max? I don't know if that term means anything. Use it a lot in Dungeons and Dragons, trying to optimize their team, optimize their bears. You see that happening a lot within the community.
Well, the way the game is designed, I think it will definitely play a big role, especially as we get to the higher level difficulty dungeons, right? So then it will definitely play a big role, because there is a lot of aspects of the game that you can min-max or optimize. You can optimize your party composition. So you have 6 classes to choose from and only 4 slots. But also you can optimize your equipment around certain challenges. So I think there will be, and then of course the gameplay itself, right? So which skills do you use? How often do you use them? Which bosses do you use them on, etc. I think there is a lot of potential there for guides, videos, tutorials. If we do the combat system as we want to do it, and if we implement the ideas that we have, then definitely the depth will be there.
I think that sounds interesting. And I wonder if people end up picking the same one, or if people end up with kind of different strategies depending on what starts working for them. It'd be interesting to see how these strategies kind of develop, and whether there's anything you guys need to do in terms of avoiding people just ending up having very similar gameplays just because one setup ends up being overly optimal. Is that anything you've been considering?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's how it's it's very often happens, right? In games, you just get cookie cutter build, and then everyone plays it. So of course we're trying to avoid that. I think the first time we will be able to see how it plays out and how people are reacting to the strategic aspects of the game is with mission system that we're developing in parallel. So to cater to our more NFT focused community, which is actually our community is NFT focused right now. We don't have that many gamers. We have a lot of NFT people and a lot of crypto people. So we've released an NFT collection. So we want to, of course, cater to our holders, our investors, and we're building a mission system for them, which is an idle gameplay system. So probably something similar to like World of Warcraft garrison missions or O game back in the day, back in the day, to actually allow them to stake their NFTs and go to these missions and get some real rewards for that. So like actually play to earn module that's revolving around this idle gameplay. And there you will have to optimize your party for the challenges. So I think it's The first time we'll be able to see if we have enough depth with our mechanics, so that not everyone is running the same build and not everyone is sending the same party to every mission.
No, I think that's exciting, and I definitely think avoiding a meta is a good way of doing it, or else, I don't know, it can end up feeling a little stale for people, so it's great that you guys have been considering that. I have pinned some bits to the top for people to have a look at, and we're looking at a couple of bears, a few bears, don't know why I said a couple, and they've got spells along the bottom, and that, I'm assuming this is them kind of entering into battle. In terms of the dungeon itself, what do we see between rooms, or is it a case that we clear one room and then we just instantly move on to the next one?
So currently you move around the map, sort of. So you get the map and you go to the zone, and in that zone there is a boss to defeat. Then you go to another zone and you defeat the boss there, but you move via the map. But in the finished product, since this is, like I said, very early stage of development, I would say it's early MVP. We are just in the final form. Of course, you're moving through rooms that are procedurally generated and contain different enemies, not only bosses. And you just walk with point and click with your party and explore the dungeon and walk around it and see what's been generated for you this time. And you fight your way through the dungeon up to the final boss.
Okay, no, that sounds good. That there's kind of a map to the dungeon that people you're looking through. You mentioned this is kind of maybe a minimum viable product kind of thing. When are you expecting to? Well, first off, can people, or when are you expecting for the first kind of early testers to be able to start getting involved in playing it?
So MVP is released to our holders. So if you hold our Genesis NFT, you can go to the link and play this build that we have, which is currently, as I said, 3 bosses, and we're testing the combat and we're testing the fundamentals of the system. If players like the combat, like the speed of it, like the strategy behind it, and abilities for classes, which there will be more in the future, of course, but right now we have 4 abilities for each class. So we're testing that with our holders. But for the bigger game and for like for the dungeons, let's say for the first dungeons we've released, I would expect it somewhere around Q4.
All right, couldn't get off mute. And I'm just having a quick look at the bears themselves. When we were talking about items previously, kind of you were mentioning there's loot and items and stuff. When I'm looking at a bear, it says what items they're wearing. Is that loot items, or is that just what's already on the bear, or is that likely to change on the NFT as I play? How does... I guess I'm asking, is it a variable NFT which changes depending on what's actually equipped to it, or is that not what's happening?
Right now, it's the gear that you receive with your Genesis NFT as you mint it, as you buy it. It's generated from the pool of traits, right? So you're rolling an RNG, and then you either get a legendary bear or a very common bear. And these items, you will be able to claim them in game, and then also you will be able to get the loot from the dungeons and from the mission system itself as well, actually. And then we'll see which path we go. So either you will claim all the items on your NFT, you will be able to mint them as NFTs as well, and the bear will remain unchanged forever, or you will be, and then the bear will change only in game as you equip items on it, or it will be reflected in the NFT as well. So we'll see which is more feasible and what's actually better for our holders. Like, do they prefer if their bird just always stays the same, or if the traits are updated as they equip the gear? Probably the latter, but we'll see.
No, I think they look really interesting. I was just having a quick browse through then. All sorts of different bears going on. And then kind of my final questions. There is a couple of comments, so I'll have a look at those while I'm asking this one. Where's the best place to keep up to date with the project?
Definitely our Twitter and our Discord. We're quite active as a team on both platforms. So if you have any questions, we will always answer them in Discord. And for the bigger announcements, we always post them to Twitter as well. So definitely these two places. Could you hear me? Or
Oh, sorry, I hadn't unmuted when I asked my question. What are you excited for in the next 3 to 6 months?
in regards to the project, or in regards to the Web3 gaming space?
We'll go both. Both.
So for the project, I'm super excited to see how the mission system works out, how players like it, because as I said, it will feature real NFT rewards. So you'll be able to use your burst to get NFTs from other partner projects. And for the Web3 gaming space, I'm looking for the NFT market to stop dying. That's one thing that would be very exciting. But I'm also looking for that adoption for first games that are actually good. And I think we'll start seeing more of these. And I think that games like Illuvium will start rolling out. And I think there's a lot of games that are currently building that will also start rolling out. And I think that a lot of game developers in the space have realized that we need to start thinking about the gameplay first rather than finances first. I mean, like play to earn first. So I think everyone is realizing that we need to start building good games first, and I really like it. I really like this direction.
Yeah, I'm also very excited for that, and I would also like to get it to stop dying. That'd be ideal, I think, to be honest. but it's been great hearing from you. Great coming up. Definitely, I'll be adding you to the list to keep an eye on kind of what's going on, and as you branch out and get closer to more developments, the doors are always open to any projects that we've had on previously to come back and give us an update. I will just do a quick wrap up because we've Army of Fortune's obviously fallen asleep. Lysto's probably almost asleep. I'm getting close to asleep, so there's plenty of sleep to kind of be going around. Just a big thank you to all the projects that came and talked to us. They're all very busy building, so the fact they've taken an hour and a half out of their time to actually come and chat with us is really appreciated. I still feel very lucky that I get to do this and get to talk to games about what they're up to so early on, and they come and share that time with us. Same for everyone who's listening. I know you'll all be very busy, and there's plenty of options out there of what you could be doing on your Tuesday mornings, evenings, afternoons, nights, because time zones are witchcraft. So really happy that you've decided to spend it with us and hear more about these projects. Make sure to follow up with them and kind of keep up to date with what they're up to. It will all be going on various socials for those who may have missed bits, so you'll be able to catch up and hear what you've missed. Final self-promotion is I have a giveaway running at the moment because this week I got through 5,000 followers in total, in completely vanity numbers, but my vanity enjoys some vanity numbers, so I decided to do a giveaway. You just have to do a couple of the standard Twittery stuff, but also then do my homework and tag games that I should look at. So far it's adding to my games list very nicely. It's working out exactly as planned. But thanks again, everyone, for coming. And when you look for games, look for ones that you enjoy. I'll catch you all later. Cheers all.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you very much for hosting us here, Gaspode.